Hello everyone, welcome to the first video about the Goring series. In this series we will see how to play the Goring. This is an important weapon against e5. So e4, e5. We can play the Goring, or if we play immediately d4, or if after knight f3, knight c6, we can play d4. The difference is that if we play immediately d4, we prevent knight f6, the Russian defense. So I usually play immediately d4 to prevent this defense. He takes knight f3. Okay, now that knight attacks the pawn on d4, in theory the black can defend this point with the knight c6, can play c5 or other moves, bishop c5 for example. The most common move now is knight c6. The black develops a piece and control the center. I don't like c5. After c5, to defend the pawn, for the white now is very strong, play c3. You attack the pawn d4 now. The black can take, knight takes c3. And now you have a good advantage about the development. So this position is very strong enough for the white, and it's very hard to defend this position for the black. We can do an example. So knight c6. So knight c6 for the black now. Bishop on c4. This diagonal is very good for this bishop. It's a free diagonal, and now the bishop is very strong now. And now a common mistake for the black in this position is play bishop e7. After bishop e7, the white win immediately. Queen d5. The white attacks f7 with two pieces, the bishop and the queen, and it's not possible for the black to defend it. If knight on h6, I can remove the defender with bishop takes, and after this move is forced to castle to prevent the mate. So this position is very strong. If d6, for example, you can play queen takes f7, king d7, queen takes g7, and this is a winning position for the white. Okay, so we can go back. Bishop e7 is a common mistake in this position for the black, but also knight f6 is bad, because after knight f6 you can go with the knight on g5, or you can play e5. And after this the white position is very strong. So in general we can say that c5 is not so strong. In theory, after c5, c3, the best move for the black is not take. If the black takes, the white position will become very strong. The only way to play now for the black, I think, is play knight on c6. And this is an interesting line, an aggressive, very aggressive for the black, in which the white can take, c take, and knight takes d4. After this move, the black can play knight f6 to make pressure on the point e4. Knight on c3, and now bishop b4. The black attacks the knight, and at the same time the pawn e4. And in this position, very open and very aggressive now, the white can play bishop c4 to sacrifice the pawn e4. It's very interesting this. In effect, if knight takes e4, castle, I sacrifice also the b pawn. What happens now if the black takes the pawn with, for example, knight takes, b takes, bishop takes? Is immediately wrong for the black play bishop takes knight, because after this and knight takes e3 there is queen e1 and they take a piece with a double attack. So if the black won't take, I think it's better take with the knight. B takes, bishop takes. Now seems that the black position is very strong, because the black attacks the rook and Seems forced to move that the white should move the rook now. But now is very strong. Sacrifice the rook and play knight on b5. What happen if the black takes? Black takes rook, knight on d6, check. Now king f8 because king e7 is in open file. King f8 and bishop a3. Now a very good pressure against the king. The threat now is take the queen after knight takes b7. Knight can take the queen. Discover attack. So to prevent this, it's not possible move the queen. Why? If queen c7, knight b5, and I take the queen. Queen b6, knight on c8, and I can take the queen. What happens if the black play queen a5 now? Now seems that it's not possible to exploit the discovered attack, queen a5, but now we can play for the mate, so knight takes c8 check, the black seems forced to take the bishop, and after this queen takes d7 with this mate threat, and it's not possible cover, the only way is the queen, but we can take the queen, the white win immediately. So this position is win for the white, after bishop takes. But what happens if the black play bishop b4 with the idea to cover d6? Now it's very interesting play rook on e1 check. After this move, I think that black must take the rook, bishop takes e1, and after this we can play check with the queen. Now in theory the black can play king f8 or cover with the queen. I don't like cover with the knight because I can play knight on d6 and they can take f7, so it's not good. Okay, so we can say what happens if the black cover with the queen. If cover with the queen, we can play for the mate and we can try bishop a3. Now I attack the queen. Seems forced the trade. Rook takes. Now it's not possible to go to f8. It's forced to go to to d8, and now bishop d6 with this mate threat. It's not possible defense c7 and the white to win now. Okay, what happens if the king go to f8 now? Okay, now bishop a3 check. The king is forced to go on g8. After knight on d6, the threat is the mate is with the bishop check and is take with the knight. Knight that takes f7. So this position is immediately lost for the black. Okay, we can go back. So we know that if the black take on c3 with the bishop, the game is win for the white. The best way for the black could be take the first pawn and after this trade the bishop, but without take c3. So play castle now immediately. In theory now the white has a pawn less, but the position is good because the white has a good activity and can take a compensation for this pawn with the square d6. So I can try to play knight b5 or I can try to play queen f3 before to attack and defend the knight and defend c3, and after this I can try rook d1 to make pressure on the d pawn. So yes, in theory the white has a pawn less, but the white has a very good compensation for this pawn. This is the best way I think for the black play with c5. In general, I don't like c5 for the black. I think it's a weak move for the black c5. Another interesting move to see now, after knight f3, is if the black play immediately d5. Okay, we know that after c5 we will play c3. It's okay. But if d5, we can't play c3, because if we play c3, the black will take here, and the white knight hasn't good squares in which can go, so it's not good now play c3. After this move d5, I think the best way to play is take the pawn d4 with the queen. Now there are two important variations, or d takes e4, or knight c6 immediately. If knight c6, I think a good way could be pin the knight with bishop b5. Now I make pressure on d5. And I don't think it's a good trade because I can also take, or I can also trade the queens. Maybe it's better on knight f6 now for the black. And after this move, the black attacks with two pieces the pawn e4. So I can now, for example, trade on d5 with the idea to make a weakness on c6 after the trades. For example, if queen takes, I can also trade the queen to make a weakness in the enemy pawn formation, and I can castle. So this could be an idea now for the white to play a good endgame. If queen takes d4 and immediately d takes e4, I can trade king takes and knight on g5. In theory now I have a pawn less, but now I attack f7 and e4 at the same time, and it's not possible f5 now because I can play the fork knight on f7. So the right way now I think is knight h6, the right way to play for the black to defend f7. And after this, in theory I can take with a even position. I think it's equal. But I think it's better knight on c3 now. Why? Now I allow my opponent to defend e4 with f5, but if the black defends this pawn, I can play bishop f4 with a very strong position for the white, and after this castle on the long side. Now it's very hard to defend this position because at the next move my rook will be in d1, and the king must defend c7. For example, if c6 to remove this problem, I can play check with the castle. The king is forced to go or on e8 or on e7. In e7 the king blocks the bishop, so I think e8 now. And after this I can play bishop c4 with a very strong activity for my pieces. I have a pawn less in theory, but this position gives me a very good compensation. The black pieces are blocked now. The knight is blocked. Bishop the same. The knight, if the knight go here on, I can go on e6. So I have many threats that I can exploit in this position. So a very strong game for me.